Trying to go all the way tomorrow night. They're one win away from their fourth title in 8 seasons, and they're here thanks in large part to Andrew Wiggins. How good was he in Game 5? 26 points, 13 rebounds in a 10-point home win, and that performance was much needed as Steph Curry had a very uncharacteristic tough night, going 0 of 9 from deep, ending his streak of 233 consecutive games with at least one made three-pointer. On the other side, the Celtics not getting what they need from their superstar Jason Tatum, who struggled again in the fourth quarter. He's shooting just 24% in the fourth in this series. So, according to Caesars Sportsbook, the Celtics are a 4-point favorite to win tomorrow night in Boston in Game 6 and force a Game 7. The Warriors still favored to win the series, and Steph Curry is a heavy favorite to win Finals MVP. So let's dive in again with JJ and Amari here. JJ, I'll start with you. Let's get as specific as we can. What is the one thing the Warriors absolutely have to do tomorrow night to win the championship?
It's continue to defend. We've talked a ton about Steph Curry's offense through 4 games. We talked about Wiggins and his points in the paint in Game 5. It really comes down to their defense. They've done an excellent job of forcing Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown into crowds, and they have not made good decisions. They forced them into tough shots. That's really what this series has been about. It has been about the Golden State Warriors defense. We spent so much time before the series talking about the Celtics defense, but really the Warriors have just outclassed them in that regard.
It's a really good point. We talked about the Celtics defense because they're so good. We talk about the Warriors offense because they have the Splash Brothers and everything else. But Golden State did have the number 2 defense in the league. What have you seen them do in particular to Tatum in these fourth quarters?
Well, it's Andrew Wiggins. I mean, this guy's a lockdown defender, man. We're seeing how he's playing now. He's coming into his own. Offensively, we know he's a great player, a solid offensive player, right? You know, first pick in the draft, and he's shown to be a good offensive player. But what's surprising me mostly with him is the defensive side. You know, when he's guarding Jason Tatum, you know, out of 55 possessions, Tatum maybe scored 13 out of those possessions. I mean, that's a great stat. And so for him to be a two-way player and to show these things in the finals is great to see.
That defense that you have seen there, it's not just on Tatum, but obviously it has been connected even when they've tried to isolate Steph. And clearly we've seen the Celtics, their goal has been get Steph one-on-one with somebody and then that guy will back him down and all the rest of that. But the Warriors have had answers.
Well, they have, and they've tried to target and hunt Steph. And anytime Steph Curry has been switched on to Jason Tatum, if you look at the low man for the Golden State Warriors, it doesn't matter who it is. It could be Gary Payton, could be Draymond Green, could be Klay Thompson. You watch any clip where he's on Steph Curry at the top of the key. They're bringing that secondary help defender over early. The second he gets by him, they're basically trapping him in the paint, and he hasn't made great decisions out of that. In about 20 minutes, we'll get to an adjustment I think he can make that would be better to make better decisions out of that. But that secondary defender has been key for them.
So we'll talk more about Tatum, but I am fascinated by the Wiggins of it all because on Sunday NBA, or on Countdown leading into the game on Monday night it was, in this case, one of the 4 of us said that Wiggins was going to be the key to the game. Oh, that's right, it was me. I finally had one right. Wiggins really has it because they needed someone to do it. And Klay Thompson, after the slow start, he's been much better, and we're going to talk more about him later. But they needed someone else to step up. No one knew that Steph was going to have the offensive night he did, and it really was Wiggins who carried them that night.
Absolutely, and this entire finals he's been stepping up, you know, on both ends of the court. And the thing I'm impressed about him the most is that he's getting to his spots on the basketball court. He's taking his time. He's elevating over the defender, knocking down the shot. He's focused on personnel defensively. He knows where the guys want to go. So you can tell he studies the game of basketball, and he's taking upon the leadership of Steve Kerr and the coaching staff. He's taking that into consideration and using all those tactics that the coach is teaching him and applying that on the basketball court.
What a trade that's going to wind up being. They got him and a first-round pick and a second in that deal. So that's going to wind up having been a really good deal, it would appear, for Golden State. Let's go to the other side, JJ. What is the one thing the Celtics absolutely have to do tomorrow night to stay alive?
It sounds so simple, and we talked about it a bunch yesterday. It comes down to turnovers. They're 1-7 in these playoffs when they have 16 or more turnovers, and they're 13-2 when they have 15 or under. If you woke up Friday morning and looked at a box score without even looking at the final score, the Celtics want to win, they got to have 15 or less turnovers, and they got to have 15 or more threes. It really comes down to that because they're making threes when they're making good passes and making good decisions and shifting that Warriors defense.
So I agree with you. It sounds simple. How do you do that? I mean, let's teach the fans a little something here. If your objective is to limit turnovers without being unnecessarily, or unimaginative or whatever the term is, how do you do it? How do you limit turnovers?
Let's just talk about the two primary playmakers for the Boston Celtics. That's Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum. They are getting a lot of times past their primary defender. When that secondary defender comes, they're almost always playing off of 1 foot. They're getting in the air. They're making poor decisions out of that. They've got to come to 2 feet. And sometimes it's just a simple swing pass.
Yep.
Shift the defense, let that guy get into a drive and kick game. They did that really well in the fourth quarter of game 1. And what was the result? They hit 9 threes.
Right. Yeah. Well, how about it? How do they go about making sure they don't let Golden State out on those uncontested fast breaks that turn into threes and all that? How do they limit these turnovers?
Yeah, it's difficult because in the playoffs, the court is shrunk, right? The teams are playing, they know their personnel, so they know where guys want to go. So it's tough to get your shot off. The best thing for those guys to do, speaking of Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown, and like Jay was saying, when they beat their defender, the low defender's on his way. So it's tough to make a decision out of that. So the best thing for them to do is, when they beat their defender, is to get into the guy's body, the defender's body, and create space to get your shot off before that second defender comes. Those are things you work on in the offseason or in practice or after practice, where when you beat your man and he's trying to take up space, you get into his body, create more space, and shoot the shot there, opposed to driving all the way to the help, and then now you're in a situation where
you're exactly right on that. And again, it goes back to do that. How many feet are you playing off of? You're playing off of 2 feet.
Absolutely.
You're playing off of 2 feet. And they need to do a better job of using their size off of 2 feet to get shots.
I said if I showed up one day with green eyes, I would look very weird. I'd have to be born with green eyes.
Saying game would be over, though, if you had green eyes? I thought the game was over now.
No, the game is over. I'm just saying if I was born,
it would enhance. It's like Steph's legacy. It would only enhance and go up from there.
If I was born with green eyes, obviously I look different. But I'd be just, ooh.
You do look like your lookalike is like a Larry Johnson.
And if I was,
you got a Larry Johnson.
If I put a Larry Johnson,
if you put a part down the middle of your hair, it's grandmama. You got the frame. You're built like you.
You know
play
what?
Like
when you just smile, but he needs a gap in his
tooth.
You
put the little gap right there, though. That's how you. It's grandmama. I'm trying to tell you.
I'm more of anything. I'm probably a younger version of Chris Webber.
You can't tell people who you look like. It don't work that way.
We
had to tell you who you look. No,
I do
no,
it
you
the way
can't.
I want to do it.
You don't
Jay.
control the content here.
Jay, probably Chris Webber. I never got Larry Johnson. Maybe Chris Webber.
Way more Larry Johnson than you. Thick neck, Larry.
Game 6 of the NBA Finals is tomorrow night. ESPN Radio and ABC coverage begins at 8.
Mookie Blaylock.
Why are you getting so sensitive?
Guys, we've been talking a lot about. I'm trying to get it in before Mookie Blaylock.
He just be coming over random small people. That's what this man does. It's okay. He's saying anybody small.
Mookie Betts, does that work too? Betts is pretty small.
No, I didn't say anything about it. I just said when you Vinny Microwave remind me of Jay. That's all because Jay used to fill it up. And Jay took it as
but he
a
didn't
slice.
say that at
Spud
first.
Webb.
He didn't say that
like
at
a
first.
little pit
He said,
bull.
yeah, he's like bulky. Yeah,
like a
bulky,
little pit bull. Jay was like
and
a little
then it went
pit
to like,
bull.
oh yeah, shooter, great shooter. I'm like, no, don't try to lighten it up. It came with the jab at first. See?
Sometimes you're a little defensive, like when Vince Carter's on the
Max,
show.
I'm gonna slap you, Max. I'm gonna reach over and slap you, Max.
Sometimes you are a little defensive. Vince Carter.
You're like a badass little kid who's an instigator. That's who you are.
Well, that may be true. I resemble that remark. But the point is, Vince Carter.
You resemble that remark?
Yes.
You resemble?
Yes.
Or you resent?
No, I resemble it.
Game 6 of the
Stooges
NBA
line.
Finals is tomorrow night. ESPN Radio and ABC coverage begins at 8.
So
we're
talking a lot about
Really? That's what we do for a living.
about Steph Curry. And you guys feel, it seems to me, like his legacy is pretty much set. I think there's movement there based on what happens in these finals. So we've been talking a lot about Steph's legacy.
It's fluid.
There may be, though, we may have overlooked, and in fact, the entire sports media may have overlooked, and let us be, therefore, the first ones to now do it.